Welcome to the Wealthy Artist Podcast. And I'm your host, Sarah Clanton.
And I'm Wilson Harwood. And we're talking about how to develop your wealth,
enjoy financial freedom,
enjoy artistic freedom,
and live the life you've always imagined. All right. Well, Chelsea, I'm excited to talk to you about a lot of things, but here on the Wealthy Artist Podcast, we're always talking about different things that we can do to just balance ourselves and keep that, work-life balance. How do we, bring forth our gifts and make the most of things and, really achieve our goals, but not burn out. And I saw that you have this balanced breakfast. And I would love for you to talk about that. But you do so many things. Before we dive into all of that, can you tell our audience who you are? Where are you coming from today? And what is it that you do here in the music industry?
Yeah, totally. So my name is Chelsea Cressman. I am currently the director at AGD Entertainment, and we focus on day-to-day management and artist development. So kind of in a nutshell, we help artists kind of put their next project out from start to finish over the course of 6 or 9 months and work with them for their first couple records. And they usually kind of fly the coop from there and move up to bigger and better things. So that's kind of what I do. On the industry side of things, I'm also a classically trained violinist. So I did a lot of community orchestras and cover band stuff, and that's not happening right now, which is bumming me out on the creative side. But then also what you mentioned about Balanced Breakfast. So it's a networking group that meets every week. It started in San Francisco by these two guys, Stefan and Andy. Actually, Andy Freeman is now here in Nashville as a producer. Stefan is out in San Francisco. And they started kind of getting together regularly to just help each other, share connection, share context, instead of that whole what's mine is mine and you can't have it. And so they really felt like it was helpful. So they started bringing in their friends and their friends and their friends and kind of created this very large group that, all got together over breakfast. So that then started spreading into a couple different cities in California, and then eventually made its way across the US. So I've been running the Nashville chapter of Balanced Breakfast for almost 6 years. It'll be 6 years in July, which is awesome. And the whole premise of the group is it's artists and industry. So both sides of the coin. We get together every week. Pre-pandemic, we would get together in person for about 2 hours, do about an hour of networking, an hour of discussion. Now we do about an hour on Zoom, because really, who wants to go more than an hour on Zoom nowadays? So we keep it kind of short and sweet. Right. But what I love about it is kind of our slogan for Balanced Breakfast is you don't come to Balanced Breakfast to do your business. You come to Balanced Breakfast to find the people you want to do business with. So it's very community-based, very conversational-based. We have guest speakers sometimes. We talk about current events going on in the industry. The big one right now has just been NFTs and all the things. It's really fun to be able to have those conversations with artists and industry and just bring both sides to the table more often. And then my favorite part of it is I come up with a funny icebreaker every week. So, the one that we had recently was chocolate or vanilla ice cream. And you wouldn't believe the amount of creatives that will take a stand on chocolate or vanilla ice cream.
What if I want
that
both?
wasn't an option, and I was yelled at for that not being an option.
Yeah. I forgot about the icebreakers. That was the best part for sure. I've been trying to go as much as I can, although I feel guilty that I haven't done a pandemic one, because I'm like, that'd be awesome to see everybody, even over Zoom. But they're really fun, and honestly, if it's in your city, you should check it out. You can find it on Facebook, right? If you just type in Balanced
usually if
Breakfast.
You just search Balanced Breakfast and then the city, they have about 30 or 35 chapters across the US and a couple different international ones as well. And all the Facebook events are public. So anybody can get that info, get the Zoom links, kind of see what virtual things are going on in each city. And then we have private Facebook groups for each city as well, that once you've kind of participated in one, then you're added to that private group. We have almost 600 members in our Nashville one that at least come to a Balanced Breakfast, whether in person or virtual, at least one time. So they really understand that community feeling and that the whole vibe that we're trying to do with the group. So
yeah, it is awesome. And then the other half, or third or fourth or whatever you want to divide up Chelsea, is AGD Entertainment, and then specifically the 0 to 60 program, which I can't remember. Are you doing that currently as a coach, or is this have you moved up in the ranks as more of an overall director there?
Yeah, so I have actually kind of moved up in the ranks to just I oversee the 060 program now. Thank you. And I thoroughly enjoy it. I think for the longest time, I've been in the management background ever since I've been in Nashville for the past 7 years. And kind of the next step for me was like, all right, manage an artist. And I was like, all right, I don't really want to do that.
Right.
So it kind of became this really natural, great flow that instead of going out and kind of finding my own artists to manage externally, I was able to kind of move into this director role where now I manage the team of artist coaches and service agents that are working directly with our clients to help put out releases. And, kind of my main job is to really help grow the program, help grow our staff, but then also making sure that we're always providing value for our artists too, and really making sure that these developing artists are coming out the other side of 0 to 60 being like, I learned something and I feel good about my release and I captured those wins and like, let's do it again.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
It is awesome. And I'm actually working with a 0 to 60 artist right now,
which
I'm super excited. Yeah. It's been really fun. And I just want to say, like, from the outside perspective, I haven't done the program myself, although I've thought about it many times because I think it's great. Like, and you can tell everybody a lot more about what you guys do because I think it's fascinating, but just having seen the outside perspective of what the artist has done in terms of like on point with their release, on point with their marketing, on point with their message, on point with their branding, and just like totally organized. It's kind of night and day with the artists I've worked with who don't have that together, just to say the least. And so I do want to say that I think it's very helpful and it's awesome to see it from the production side. Because us producers
kind of going back to what
it.
you were saying, Sarah, about like just in general, balancing like creative and business, it is so hard. And that's kind of the whole forefront of why 0 to 60 exists, is for there to be that balance between you've got to have great art, like be creative and create really great art. And then let's help put a strategy and a business plan to support that art and not the other way around. Because I've seen it with artists that they're like, I'm going to put together a marketing plan and a business plan and this plan and that plan, and then I'll go make art to fit that plan. It's like, no. I've never seen that work well. And if there's a strategy that works well, like send it my way because I'll be impressed. But for us, the message is go create really great art and figure out who you are as an artist and a creative and what that narrative is and what your message is and where you're trying to go with your art. And then let's support that with a strategy and help you kind of move into that direction.
I love that because then it sounds like it's catered to each artist and not just like, all right, here's the formula, you do that. Because that is like, I mean, a lot of times when people think about coming to Nashville and like going through the, machine, it can feel like that. I mean, it feels like, oh, well, if I have to sacrifice my authenticity, and no, don't do it. I think, it's so great to have a team, whatever that team looks like. And we're all about flipping the script and, changing that story. And, yes, we cannot do this thing alone. That's even why we're here right now doing what we're doing in this very conversation. And our teams can look differently now. But have that art, love what you do, come to the table with that, like just super inspired stuff you've made, and the rest, you'll attract the right type of people. And I love that you have created this container, alongside of it so that, people can come and just meet and mingle and like find each other. But if you don't know who you are, you might magnetize to the wrong people that aren't like going to serve your ultimate intention. But yeah, anyway, I tangent.
I love it.
Yeah. Do you guys help artists finding their like sort of brand, so to speak, or their like what makes them so special? Or do you sort of say like, no, you guys need to figure that out on your own, or we'll do the business side?
Well, honestly, it's a little bit of both. I mean, like we do have a lot of conversations on brand identity and what that means to them as an artist, but we have every single one of our artists when they first start working with us, we take them through what we call like the discovery portion of our campaigns. And that's like usually the first 2 to 4 weeks, sometimes a little longer if an artist is really kind of figuring themselves out. But for the most part, it's really diving into not only who are you as an artist, like who inspires you, who do you think you sound like, what types of artists do you think are doing really great work right now, and really getting a sense of who they are musically, but then also who are they outside of a musician? Like, we're not just one person. And if we were just one person, that would just be so boring, because we'd have just a whole world of musicians that did nothing else and had nothing else to say. So, what are their hobbies? What are their morals and values? What do they believe in? What do they like to do in their free time? Where do they go on vacation? Like, all of those types of things make up a unique narrative specifically to them that says, yes, I'm a musician, just like everybody else putting out music right now, but it's different because this is my background and this is my story and this is what I want to tell. So we really dive into all that. And what I found that's the most helpful with doing that is getting what's in here onto paper. So getting things out of their head and onto paper, and really, I think, helping align what direction that they're trying to go in as an artist. Because sometimes it's the direction that becomes the hardest to really roadmap, right? And for us, it's like, we are not going to figure out that narrative for you. Like, that is yours. Like, your art and your creativity and your story is yours to own, but let us help pull that out of you. Like, let us ask a lot of leading questions and really dig into what this, like, why is this producer your favorite producer? Why do you like to vacation in Hawaii? Like all the whys of what makes you you. And then really diving into, okay, that now directly affects content strategy, and that affects our social media language, and that affects even the types of blogs and magazines and brands and just other industry that we might want to have conversations with. And not just to go, and it's all a balance, right? Art and industry, not just have everything be such a business industry conversation, but to say, we would be a good fit to partner because not only is my music aligned with what you're doing, but we also have common ground on something else with our life.
Yeah. That's so awesome. And it must be freeing for your artists to feel a sense of like, oh, I see how I can take like the artistic creative side that I've had in my head this whole time and finally be able to apply it to like the stuff they probably don't like so much, like social media and things like that, but then get inspired to be like, oh, I'm sharing like my gifts and I'm sharing who I am, which is pretty cool.
I think that helps too, especially like on Instagram and things like that, because, I think this keeps coming back to me. It's kind of this brilliant, but sort of duh thing. When I'm on Instagram, I'm not looking like at new music. I'm looking at the artists I love and like what they are up to in their life and their vacations in Hawaii and that stuff. And that does, resonate. So yeah, you're kind of finding your tribe by identifying all this stuff and having someone to coach you. Like, I like that. I think that's, I think coaching is the word you guys used. And like, that's really important because it is up to us and we do have what we need inside of us, but we do need someone to help us like pull it out, get it from the head onto the paper so you can organize that stuff. And as independent artists, we wear so many hats and it's really hard to see ourselves objectively. And I think I have a business coach, and that just having a music business coach is absolutely like transformative. It's the word. And it's, it's just pulling it out of yourself and finding that right match to help you do that. I think it's more powerful than like I think a traditional manager, I think in our minds historically can be for us now. I think this is a much more like awakened way of doing our business.
Well, I think sometimes what I get from talking with artists is just giving permission to not feel like you have to do the same thing as everybody else if that's not what you want to do. Like, there are some industry standards. And kind of the standard is like, you have to have a presence on Instagram and Facebook for the discoverability of it, the interaction of it. Like, there are reasons for being on these platforms, but you don't have to do the exact same type of content as somebody else. You don't have to do the same type of stories and
you'll get lost in comparison land game, and then you'll just never find yourself.
Exactly. So from that discovery doc, we're able to really pull with the artist, and we're, kind of going back to your point, Wilson, of what is their identity and their narrative and their brand as an artist. And if their identity and their brand and their narrative, we've had so many artists come up with really cool ways of interacting on social media. Like, one of our artists does like, I want to say it was like a spicy Thursday or some sort of like spicy, like hot sauce thing like every week. And another artist that I know did like a cocktail mix, and one of our artists was also doing some sort of podcast. Like, there are ways to interact with not only fellow creatives but fans and potential fans that are unique and make sense and are just fun. Like, it should be fun. It's work. There are work parts to making sure that you're staying consistent in that, but it should be true and authentic to yourself, because either one of two things will happen. if it's not something that's true and authentic to your personal identity and brand, you're either going to stop doing it because it's a time suck, or you end up doing it for so long that thing now becomes your identity by default, and you can't really easily go back to the thing that you really want it to be in the first place.
Mm-hmm. So really keeping connected to your intention and your purpose, I think, really lights that fire, and having, and through going through something like really pulling it and discovering whatever this is and having something, written down, like, all right, always going back to this is my intention, this is my purpose. Yeah, for sure. Oh, it's a ride too. And it's okay if things change and stuff, but yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and we always give permission to say, like, hey, we are not etching this in stone. Like, we are humans, we change our minds, and that's not a bad thing. But let's make sure if we're changing our minds, there are certain times that we can have those discussions, like before we've announced anything, before we started releasing anything. But once we hit that go button, we're going. Like, let's do it. And then if we want to look back for the next release, go back and change some things. So there are always times to readjust and to change, and also keep things fresh and exciting, but knowing when those times are really helpful for change and when it's like, no, we're done. Like, let's hit the go button and really get this out there and not feel like we have to sit on it for too long.
I think you're tapping on something here. Like, because sometimes when we're like doing something, we're like, I think it was Maston Kipp who said, new level, new devil. Like when we're doing something that's different, and like going through this program might be really different. Maybe we've never taken a look at ourselves, and taking a look at ourselves can be kind of scary, and so you're doing this new thing. And sometimes, like, I know that I have in the past, wanted to run sometimes when it gets bigger, and like, oh my gosh, well, that seems bigger and scary and different. It's safer to stay down here. But it's great to have someone there again to help you kind of reflect and say, okay, am I running and wanting to change this because it's new and different and I need to grow? Or is it something that's not really good for me? But I don't know. It's great. Having someone to help you is just super, super clutch.
Yeah. I really want to like kind of push on that point, because it's kind of been this cool thread that we had in our last interview with Lillian Clanton on the podcast, which is that, it's really important to have help. And I was curious, Chelsea, what do you find with maybe people who are like, give the pushback to a program like this, where they're like, oh, no, I can do it all myself. Like, everything you're saying, I already know. So, but like, there's always this disconnect between what we know and what we actually do. And then also the difference between trying to DIY literally all on your own 100% and having a built-in team that, there's no shame in buying your team these days, is I think what we're getting at, instead of like hoping that that person will
hiring,
come along.
Collaborating, yeah.
Hiring is better than buying.
Yeah.
I'm going to buy my team.
Buying them off. Making them love me.
I'll just shower everybody in money.
I mean, that sounds fun. I want to do that one.
I do want to do that at some point, yeah.
Yes.
I guess. I don't know. That sounds kind of weird.
Oh, I definitely do. I just want to be like, here, have it. Have some money. Woo.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So that was a very long-winded question, but I'm curious what your thoughts are on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, the thing that I would get from artists a lot of times in having conversations kind of like from the get-go in the very beginning stages is, even if most artists, I really do feel like, know that they should do all these things. Like, they know that there's things that they should be doing with press and their branding and their marketing and performance and building their team. But it's a lot of times like what I get is either, oh, I'm probably not ready for that, so I'm not going to worry about it yet. And to that point, we say, you're ready to build a foundation on all of these things. It just doesn't mean that we're going to go from like 0 to like 2,000 right now. Like, we're going to take some baby steps in order to make sure all these things get tackled, so that, what I'll see from artists a lot of times is they put focus into like 1 or 2 areas. So pre-COVID, they'd be touring, but their social media is crickets, or they have amazing content on socials, but they're not pitching it for press opportunities. And again, it's not, oh, I had no idea. It's, oh, I just either didn't think I was ready, or I figured I'd do that on the next release. And it's like, no, next time, like now time, like
now time. I like that. Now time.
Yeah. So what I say to any artist that kind of brings up like, well, I've been doing this on my own, eventually it leads to burnout. Like it burns out the creative side of your mental capacity, so that you end up spending all your time on the business side. and the time that you have to spend on the creative side just starts going down. It doesn't all of a sudden just drastically switch that you go from,
oh no, we lost you.
okay, I'm not going to be a business person. But over time it starts creeping in that you're now seeing yourself of like, oh, I wish I had more time. And then the other point, kind of to what you were saying too, Wilson, is I think every artist still needs people on their team at some point, and that sometimes that means hiring team members or buying, if you will, Wilson, but hiring your team members to help you accomplish some of these business things. Like that's what we do at 0 to 60 is like, we are a fee-based service, not commission. So like there's chance to hire help to do these things. But even if it's an intern, if it's a friend,
right,
there comes a point where, free work doesn't last forever, but to get your ideas bounced off somebody other than you, somebody who's not in the studio, somebody who's not in the writing room, somebody who's not on the set of the video, like to really be able to get those objective, opinions and to really get some feedback on what you're working on as an artist, that should always, and that's a
someone
free thing.
that you trust who has your best interest.
Friends and family is like, friends and family is the first and foremost. Like, ask your friends and family for their feedback. Like that is like one of the most free and like greatest business decisions that you can do as an artist is get that feedback and do with it what you will, but that can help you really start to plan out. We just actually had this happen with one of our artists that she, has a brand new batch of songs. It's her first release. And she was kind of going back and forth on the singles and wasn't really sure. Sent it out not only to our team to give some feedback on what we kind of were thinking for singles, but then also sent that out to a bunch of other creatives and friends and some family too. Every single one of them came back and said that one of the specific songs that she wasn't even considering for a single, they're like, that one, that has to be the one. That song is amazing. And like, it would be, the fact that it was 10 or 15 people that all came back, like that is now such valuable business information to take that into your strategy to kind of go forward. So again, to your point, Wilson, that was a long-winded answer to your long-winded question.
That's a lot of ideas.
To sum all that up is really being able to make sure that you're not the only person that's bouncing the ideas off in your head, because you'll get stuck a lot of times in your head and really feel like you're losing out on the time that you want to spend creating.
Yeah. And I think one thing that popped into my mind too was this idea that you said at the beginning of this episode, which is like, we actually help a lot of artists in that first stage of launch in their career, and then we can hand them off. And I'm like, that's actually a great way to think about it is, you hire your team, buy them out early on in because that launch phase is so hard. Like I love the idea that these guys over at Indepreneur have said, where they're like, once you're in orbit, it's easy. Like once you launch your career into orbit, it's just like, do we want to go to the moon? Do we want to go to Mars? Where do we want to go? But to get out of the Earth's atmosphere, which is where most artists are for, unfortunately, it could be a long part of your career, just trying to get off the ground. So putting a lot of fuel to launch you into orbit, it actually makes a lot of sense.
Does take a lot of fuel.
Maybe we should do. Just drop money on that fuel fire.
Now we're burning our money.
Shit. This is not going.
Burn it.
The analogy's not going. It's going around.
Yeah, no, but it's interesting though. I think about that a lot of like how it gets easier as you go along. Actually, it doesn't get harder.
Well, there's something to like that consistency of just not giving up.
Yeah. So how can people find 0 to 60, Chelsea, and AGD as well? But AGD is more of like a management company, umbrella company of 0 to 60.
This is the confusing part that I'll kind of set the record
here.
So AGD Entertainment is the parent company. That is kind of the company that we all work at is AGD. It stands for Another Great Day, by the way.
Which I like. Yeah,
great company
I love
name. That. 0 to 60 is our artist development and day-to-day management program. So the 0 to 60 program is what we walk our artists through when we're doing their release strategy, covering, 5 different areas of what we feel like are the, main areas to focus on for release: operations, growing your team and building your business, branding, marketing, performance, publicity. So that's kind of the 0 to 60 program. There's about 350 tasks, give or take, that fall into those 5 categories from start to finish. Start to finish usually lasts about 6 to 9 months. So we're not doing 300 things all right now. But really being able to track your progress as an artist is really helpful. We have all the tasks kind of in a project management tool. There's comment boxes on every task to ask questions, come up with ideas, troubleshoot how we're going to tackle these tasks. But what I find the most valuable about it is we're open doors. So we work with any artist, any level, any genre, purely because everybody still needs all the basics, no matter if you're a hip hop artist or if you're Taylor Swift or if you're a singer-songwriter in college, like you still need to think about your social media calendar and think about your press release and think about what brands we're going to research to reach out to them. Like all the names of the tasks get tackled for every artist, but the strategy of what we're researching and who we're pitching to and why we're doing things a certain way, that's what's unique to everybody based on their art and their narrative. So all that to say, I mean, everything's listed on our website at agdentertainment.com. There's some sections for AGD that kind of list some of the programs and events and kind of like company-wide things that we're doing. And then there's a section that's just all 0 to 60 about the program and how people can get involved. And actually our artist coaches do free strategy sessions with any artist that wants to just come and chat for 45 minutes about what they're working on, what they could use help on, asking any questions and really kind of picking their brain. And then we shoot them over kind of a typed up 1-page strategy that's like, hey, here's everything that we talked about. If you want to work with us on it, here's how we could do that. If you want to take this strategy and run with it, go for it. Like if we're providing value. And, you know, the biggest kind of hypothetical, but not hypothetical example that I always use is if we could change your mind ever so slightly to think, I recorded my music last week and I'm going to put it out tomorrow. If we can say, whoa, let's maybe think about a little bit of strategy and like some of that build up and some of the things to be thinking about that are really important, then putting your music out tomorrow. That's what we feel like we've given back to the community. And that's really valuable to us. Even if an artist is like, this isn't the right fit, or I can't afford it yet, or, you know, I'm not ready, then it's like, yeah, like take some of these strategies and try working them in on your own. And if you still need help, like we're always here.
I feel like I hear that all the time. Take the time on the front end. I mean, I've never released anything and been like, man, I wish I'd spent less time preparing for that release. Never.
Right.
Never thought that. So
yeah,
it's awesome.
Agreed. Same here.
This is great.
Yeah, I think, and like take up those free, 45, that's a lot of great time to learn and get some feedback. And we've been such huge proponents of, obviously, we're all about coaches and hiring your team here on the Wealthy Artist Podcast. And so like, we're also about see if it's a good fit, because I'm sure Chelsea could tell you that it's all about finding your fit and your team and the people you want to work with. So this is just another awesome resource. And you guys are based in Nashville, but do you work with people like all over the world or country?
Yeah, so we're based in Nashville, but we've always been able to work with people that are not in Nashville. I think just kind of by default, we had most of our artists were in Nashville, but ever since the pandemic, I think our roster is like pretty split now, 50-50.
Yeah.
Half of them are here in Nashville and the other half are literally spread out. Like we've got one from Canada, one from the UK, California, Florida, New York, like literally everywhere. And we actually just hired our most recent artist coach is actually based in New York instead of Nashville. And that's something that we were like, well, if we don't need our artists to be here, then yeah, like let's have a coach who's in New York and have that flexibility in virtual space for our team too. So that's been really exciting that we've been able to just expand more virtually because of the pandemic.
Yep. It sounds awesome. Sounds healthy to have more diversity of perspectives in towns, because Nashville is just one small perspective in the music industry.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, thanks so much, Chelsea. This has been freaking amazing.
Yeah,
and really
thank you
fun
guys
to
for
chat
having
about
me.
it all. And so make sure to check out her her stuff with Balanced Breakfast as well here in Nashville or whatever city you guys are at. And then AGD Entertainment as well.
We'll make sure to put those links in the description below.
Program. Yeah, we'll have all those links in the podcast. So thanks so much, Chelsea.
Awesome, you rock, yeah.